very proud and also grateful for all his donated hours that he's done here.
Hi. He's right. I am David King. I'm really glad to see so many people here. And the Learning Garden became central in my life about 2001, 2002, something like that. So you can figure the years out. That's beyond my math. But at any rate, a lot of what's going on here is we have some experiments happening here and there. I've planted things I shouldn't have planted. I've planted things that people said, oh, it won't grow here, and I got it to grow here. So it's a lot of finding out what really is the truth. Long about, let's say 2010, I was introduced to the idea of seed saving. And I get goosebumps when I say that because nobody in the world, I thought, was going around saving seeds. And that December, I went back with a friend to Christmas in Indiana. I don't advise it. But while we were on that ride out there and then coming back, is when in my mind's eye, I saw a viable seed library. And what that is, the purpose of the seed library is to prevent us from running out of varieties of plants. You know, there was a National Geographic magazine. It had a chart with the number of varieties available in 1920s, that sort of thing. And they had so many different varieties of tomatoes and radishes and all these different kinds of vegetables. And that was in the 1920s, early 1920s, 1930s, somewhere along in there. For what we have today is so diminished. It's like you had 120 tomatoes, and nowadays you had 15 left over. Well, this is no big deal in some people's mind, but in quite the contrary, it is diversity. It is diversity which gives you strength. It is diversity that has all these different chromosomes hidden from us that are still there and are still creating our food for us. And we're ignoring them. And worse than ignoring them, we're making it a bad environment for them. We cannot continue down that path. It is a path that will lead us to a lifestyle you have no idea how poorly it can be on this planet. The seed library has gone on right now since COVID. We've been in kind of a upheaval. Who's doing what? What's doing who? And so we're not exactly a good representative at this moment. We will come back with other varieties of tomatoes, of beans, of corn, and that sort of thing. In fact, you'll walk through some of these things out there in the garden we have now. Not going to stop because this is N, right? There's no getting around it. We have got to become the people that bring the seeds back into our lives again and give us the nutrition and the appearances and the tastes that we have lost over these years. And then we can begin to build up on more diversity elsewhere. So whatever we do not want to give up on our diversity. And that's what the corporations tell you. You have to grow this corn, you have to grow this, that, because if you don't, you're going to lose your corn. Well, it won't be our corn we lose, it's their corn we lose, right? And so don't get confused by any of this. This is a very, very worrisome time in the history of mankind. I thank you for paying attention to me so pleasantly. And we're now going to go out and trample the garden, right?
Biointensive gardening is an approach that prioritizes building and maintaining rich, biologically active soils so that you can grow as much healthy produce in a small space as possible. We aim to accomplish that here at the Learning Garden through several strategies. Growing a high percentage of calorie-rich grain crops like wheat, oat, and corn, which produce large amounts of carbon-rich byproducts. Think hay and corn stalks that can be recycled and used in compost. They've just recently made this nice composter bin here, yeah, composting is the best, I think. I don't know. That's my personal opinion, but composting is so important, and I want to get people in the area to help bring. If you live in an apartment and you want to come compost here, that would be a great thing. They try and fix nitrogen, an important plant micronutrient, and so getting nitrogen from the air when you fix it. Create additional organic matter as green manure. Nurture a diverse mix of beneficial microbes, and as the cover crop excludes. They incorporate crop rotation, and they take advantage of square space crop planting recommendations. Did you know you can grow up to 16 beets in 1 square foot?
Wow.
Companion planting techniques are very important when you're planting 2 plants that are beneficial to each other. And while traditional biointensive gardening practices have advocated for double digging, here we favor a no-till approach, which is the least disruptive to life in the soil. In optimal conditions, the soil life will till or aerate the soil for you. Work smarter, not harder. I would like to introduce 2 volunteers who are doing our fiber arts garden here, and that is Ed and Felicia.
Another plant that we're growing is papyrus. I think we all learned in school in ancient Egypt. They grew papyrus along the Nile, and they used that for paper. That's another fiber. A lot of the other plants in this garden are dye plants. So blackberry, this is a blackberry bush here, was used as and still can be used as a dye plant. Black Hopi sunflowers, the center of the seeds, can be used as a dye plant. Calendula, which is growing here along the border, is a dye plant.
Yeah.
Safflower also can be used as a dye plant. So a lot of things are labeled in this garden. If you're walking by and you're just curious, we have added signs so you know whether it's a dye or a fiber plant. What am I forgetting, Ed? Coreopsis.
Little red flowers down here.
Onions. We're all familiar with onions. Onion skins are used as a dye plant.
Land was probably the worst piece of land I've ever worked on. I started organic gardening in 1969. This was a trash area when they bulldozed the garden and put in the sewer pipe. And they had also a rock pile. And so I was forced to do the double digging that they were talking about for the biointensive garden. And what I've found is that it's very practical and very efficient if you bury your food scraps and then the worms eat the food scraps and turn it into soil. And that's what I've been doing along here. This whole bed, I dug down, I found crabgrass 2 feet down, all kinds of metal and glass and plastic, and lots of rocks. So this has been a very intensive process, and it's in a still in an early stage. You can see over there some comfrey, which was used to feed pigs quite extensively in England and Europe back in the 1800s. It has many healing properties. There's a Himalayan sage right here. We've got a moist section of plants that like to be moist, such as gotu-kola. How many of you heard of gotu-kola? Good for the brain. Also known as brahmi. Now, brahmi is actually 2 different herbs in Ayurveda. One is bacopa and one is centella. They're both really good for the brain, all brain functions. And we have centella, which is a little more sturdy than bacopa, but they both like moist conditions. Bacopa is a little more delicate. It probably wouldn't make it through the cold winters that we have here. Right there, probably one of the most robust, sturdy plants I've ever worked with is Coleus forscoli. This plant is a true survivor, one of the easiest things to make cuttings from. If you wanted to make a cutting, that thing is so easy to grow. It's used for cholesterol and weight loss. You'll see some carrot flowers over there. I like to let things go to seed. Sometimes they make really beautiful flowers. We have a volunteer papaya tree, which I have trimmed so that it doesn't just turn into a tall thing that you can't manage. We've got a sugar cane that was actually, that sugar cane is over 6 years old. Over in the moist section, another thing that we have is something called vach or vak in Ayurveda, which means speech. It's calamus root, which is known to support brain functions. The FDA has a restriction on that. Any herb you can overdo. The thing is that herbs are generally much safer than synthetic drugs. Yes.
Behind our Anaheim Angel guy, this tall one, what is that one called again?
Oh, the Coleus forscoli?
Yeah, Coleus what?
Coleus forscoli.
Crystoli.
Forscoli, yeah. So some companies are using an extract of it that they call forscolin. So you'll see that out there.
This milkweed versus that other milkweed, the tropical milkweed. Do you all know why it's important? All right. This is like a 5-star restaurant for the native butterfly, for the monarchs. All right. That's how it feeds them. The tropical milkweed, the pretty with the yellow and gold flowers and the orange, it's like McDonald's. I have seen butterflies feed on that, hatch, they make the pupa to hatch, and then they never get off the ground. Don't buy it. I actually go to nurseries and tell them stop selling. All right. What else do we have here? We have some native daisies. We have the scarlet monkey flower. I love the name. We have Latillaha poppy in the back, and also that lovely purple flower up above. Somebody mentioned, what is that?
Yeah, what is that? Is it a mallow?
Mallow, thank you. Remind me, mallow. Beautiful mallow. All natives. Over here, we have our Mexican elderberry, which is a native, even though it has that country's name in it. And we have our beautiful hummingbird sage. It's going down a little bit, but it will come back, among other things here in the garden.